Welcome back! Do you believe yet that Chinese characters are not just random little designs? Have I convinced you yet that there are patterns and clues inside characters that help you learn them systematically? If not, I plan to have you convinced by the end of this lesson. To help you see this, I want to tell you a little about how Chinese characters came to be. Way back, around 4,000 years ago, people in China already had a language that worked great for talking, but that was too limiting. They needed another way to communicate, so they began making up a script. Sounds like a huge project, right? How do you even begin to create a script for an entire language? Well, they did the same thing that you and I would have done. They started with the easy stuff first. They looked at a tree and thought to themselves, okay, I can do that. I can draw a tree. So they drew this, and it became the accepted way to write the word tree. To this day, this character means tree or wood in Chinese. They did the same thing with lots of other words. For example, this is how they drew a person. It actually looks like a person, doesn't it? And this is how they drew a sheep or goat. You can see the two dots at the top to represent the two horns. I like to call these types of characters what you see is what you get, because they're just pictures of the words that they represent. After some characters like those were established, people also began to put two or more pictures together to form a new character. For example, this character is two trees put together. It means forest. Totally logical, right? Making up a new written language by drawing what you see is really cool, but some abstract concepts are not easily drawn. So our ancestors had to get really creative in order to represent words that weren't just objects. Here's a great example. This character shows a person beside a tree, like someone leaning against a tree for shade and support. It means to rest. I call these types of characters meaning plus meaning characters because inside them you can find two different components that give you a hint about its meaning. In many cases, this worked just fine to simply use a picture or a combination of pictures to represent meaning. But it didn't work all the time. They needed a new method for creating characters. I like to imagine that the process went something like this. They needed a new character to represent the word ocean. Maybe they tried putting together several characters for water, but it just didn't look quite right. So someone said, hey, wait a minute. The word for ocean, yang, sounds exactly like the word for sheep, yang. They're both pronounced yang. Everybody knows the sheep character already. Why don't we just use the same one? Everybody thought that was an interesting idea, but might be too confusing. After all, how do you distinguish two different concepts that are represented by the same character? So somebody else came up with a great compromise. Why don't we just put a few drops of water beside the character for sheep? That way, everybody would know that this is a character pronounced as yang and it relates to water. That way, it has to mean ocean then. So now we have the ocean character, with the water component on the left hinting the meaning and the sheep component on the right to hint the sound. This turned out to be a really great way to form new characters. We have lots of characters like this in Chinese, and I call them meaning plus sound characters because they have one component that gives you a clue about what it means and another component that gives you a clue about how to pronounce it. Now there's one caveat here that I've mentioned before and I want to repeat again. Not all characters can be summed up so nicely. For example, do you remember the Mei character example that I used before, which means beautiful? It's got the character for sheep on top and the character that means big on the bottom. Why? Who knows? I like to call characters like these random characters, because whatever significance they originally had has been lost over the years. And now they just appear to be more or less random. Well, there's no limit here. Characters like this give you a chance to put your imagination to work. Whether or not you're enjoying coming up with stories like that, the good news is that most characters do contain some clues to help you work out their meaning and/or pronunciation. I also hope that this brief introduction of how Chinese characters are made up gives you an even better understanding of their building block nature. Very soon, you'll learn how to put the clues and pieces together and finally be reading Chinese. Alright, 下次见，再见。Hello, I hope that you're finally convinced that Chinese characters follow simple patterns that you can use to easily learn more characters. The more you learn, the easier it gets. Click here to watch the next introductory lesson. You'll learn how to type Chinese characters and whether or not you should learn how to write characters by hand. Click here to start learning characters today at Yoyo Chinese. Click here to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you so much. 再见。
Yoyo Chinese.